Before we get started, I just want to let everybody know that this episode is sponsored by Molly Morris from M3 Virtual Accounting. I hired Molly Morris about 2 years ago, and it was way too late. I should have done it so much sooner. If you are somebody who has a small business, especially a virtual business is what she tends to specialize in, or if you're somebody who just has a hard time dealing with your household taxes, Molly is really affordable, really easy to communicate with, and she will get on a call with you and just talk with you about what you need. And if she doesn't think she can help you, she will tell you that. But I really recommend chatting with her and finding out what she can do for you, because it's taken such a load off my mind to not have to worry about my own taxes every year. So check her out at m3virtualaccounting.com and get a free consult today.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Ted Lasso, Season 3, Episode 2. I don't want to go to Chelsea. It's in parentheses. Not really sure about this one, the title. In this episode, we've got everybody finding out that Roy Kent and Keely broke up. And they are even more baffled at the fact that he dumped her, rightfully. And there's this guy named Zava, and everybody wants a chance to suck his dick. And
oh my.
It doesn't go the way you think. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Oh my.
It caught me a little off guard. It took a turn. So what did you think overall of this episode? Overall,
I really liked this one. I really enjoy seeing Jamie trying to reach out to Roy and be the more mature one, and Roy being like a fucking child, literally like defending himself from a hug as if he's being attacked because he came at him so fast, which he didn't. I really like Rebecca losing her temper and getting what she wanted because she's just like, you know what, fuck you. And I really liked Keely helping a friend and then standing up for that friend. And this is the thing with like becoming successful, is you want to help your friends out. You want to bring people with you. And I am really lucky in that I am my own boss. I have my own thing going on, so I can just like do what I think. But Keely has people she's answering to. And it's just a very different situation when there are folks that are backing you and still technically have control over the situation. It's not like she has no power, but it's just a really different dynamic than what I was imagining. Yeah. And I think different than what she was imagining also. I don't know. Maybe she knew that it would be like this. I don't know. But I am hoping that she is able to win over, what is her name? Brenda?
Barbara.
Oh, that's right, because she calls her Babs. Sorry. I love the name Babs, though. It's so good.
I have a cousin named Babs.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it's just got a vibe.
Yeah, it's weird because it's a nickname from like her initials. It's not because her name is Barbara.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had a friend named Ace, and that was his initials, was ACE. He went by Ace.
You know what Steve's are?
Oh no, what?
Well, you know his first and last name. What could be in the middle?
Oh, sod. Sad? Is it sad? Tell me you have gotten him monogrammed gifts, please. Because I'm going to get him one. I've never bought Steve a gift in my life. This is the first year that it's happening. Oh my God, I wish I could get him something really expensive that he'd have to use because it's amazing, but it would just be inescapable that it said on it. Like a new laptop that was engraved or something. Oh, that is a bummer.
He has a wonderful sense of humor about it. But yeah.
This is why I've never picked out a middle name. Because I always wanted like initials that
you don't have a middle name. You tell me this.
You had this surprising
realization, and I am surprised
every time I tell you.
Every time you tell me,
yep.
I can't get over it. It seems crazy to me. How? You of all people,
my parents couldn't decide on one.
You should have like 4, especially with a dad from Colombia. You should have like 16 names.
They couldn't decide on one. They were just like, they went back and forth, and it was a real close thing. I'm sure that I didn't get Maria, because literally every girl on his side of the family has Maria somewhere in there. If it's part of their first name or their middle name. But all right. I wanted to have like really good initials, and I don't know what that even means. Like good initials? I don't know what that looks like. Symmetrical? How would that go? I don't have another N at the end of, like, as my last name. And now I'm doing Winters. If I get like something that starts with a vowel, now I could have Nah. That would be pretty good, actually. Nah. Okay, so let's start at the beginning here. First, I've got to get past the preview of the silo, which Apple insists on putting before every single one of these episodes. And I've got to tell you guys, I couldn't be less interested. It just doesn't grab me. So that's my review of the silo, is don't watch it. We start off with Keely in her office and a slow pan of all of her coworkers who are wound very tight. They look so stressed, and I can't help but wonder, do they just not know what's expected of them? They all have this vibe of like faking it. Mm-hmm. Like they just don't really know what they're here to do.
I feel like
I don't know how true that is. Like,
I think that's a pretty good assessment of a very early part of the story. It doesn't look like they have any idea what to expect from Keely.
Yeah.
And they just don't know what to make of her quite just yet.
Everybody's like sitting at their desks, but nobody seems to be really doing anything. One of these guys looks like he's on a spreadsheet or something, but it could just as easily be like gaming stuff. I don't know. And then there's the guy who she just turns and looks at there, and he like shoots to his feet and stands there really awkwardly, like with his hands in front of him, looking like, did you call for me? No, nobody said your name, Steve. Relax. I don't know if that's his name, but that's what I just called him. And she does like tries to be like, let's all have a picnic in the conference room. And Babs is like, no, I can't go. And when Keely's like, well, I didn't tell you when it is. She's like, yeah, I know. And she's just very unconcerned with whether or not she is coming across as friendly. It does not matter to her. And she makes it pretty clear that these people are like just not the ones that you want to hang out with and be friends with. Like, it's not going to work.
Right.
She says she's been with this crew before, worked with them before.
Yeah. That's
I don't see it happening.
The other weird thing is that they seem to have a group of people that they just plop around at their new ventures. So maybe that's another reason why everybody is so standoffish, because they're just so used to like, okay, well, this job's going to end and then I'll just be at the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is like, is it just that things like ventures fail and then they get moved when they fail? Like,
I mean, I don't know if I'm in a position to answer that.
I'm just sort of trying to imagine, like, if you have a team that just jumps around like this, Is it supposed to be that she eventually replaces them with her own people, and that's like
maybe
the ecosystem here? Or...
Yeah, maybe they're like implementation guys, and they go to new ventures, and once it gets up and running and it's successful, then like Keely or whoever can bring in her own people, and then they go start the next place.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they all seem like not enthused about this. And they seem to have very little sense of humor. And considering what it is that she's trying to do, which is like PR and doing things that are sort of fun and engaging, it just seems like not a great group for that.
And creative.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? I keep wanting to mention this and I keep fucking forgetting. Everybody listening, there's a new thing that Patreon's doing and I'm super excited about it. They're unveiling 3 things that they're doing that are new, and I keep meaning to say something, and I'm going to do a big announcement when it's like officially out. These are not all completely rolled out yet, but a couple are. One is free trials. You can become a patron for 7 days and get a taste of what it is to be a patron, and you don't have to pay anything. And it just rolls you into being a paying patron after 7 days. So you can like check it out. And I have that enabled for the $5 and $10 tier. Then they just, I'm so excited about this, enabled collections, which I think they're not calling playlists because people use it for art as well, or spreadsheets or whatever it is that they're like giving out as material for patrons. But basically I can start making like full playlists that you can access with all the episodes in one spot instead of just using the tagging. So that will make things a lot more organized and really great. And then 2 things that they haven't quite rolled out yet, but will be. One, I will be able to sell my content from Patreon, and I won't have to be doing that on my website anymore. I'll probably leave it up on my website for a while, but I would frankly rather not deal with the headache of doing the software and everything on that end. So I will likely be moving things like my avatar coverage with Owen to the website, to Patreon from the website. And I'm just really excited that that's going to be an option because like selling files was really challenging. I have to pay for like a plugin on my website and stuff in addition to everything. And then there's 2 people getting paid off of what I'm selling. So it's a big percentage. And that's going to be, I think, in like the next week or 2 weeks. And then the last thing that I am kind of the most excited about, even though it does not technically make me any money, is that they are going to enable a like supporter tier where you're not paying any money at all, but you are following me on Patreon. So you can see the posts I'm making, and I can make posts to all of my patrons with news updates or information about things, and it will go to your email. It will like be directly shared with you, but it won't be paid content. And it's just a way for you to like stay in the loop of what I'm doing. Previously, I have just been relying on getting that word out via Facebook and Twitter and occasionally an email blast. But honestly, making emails is such a fucking nightmare. I almost never do it. And if you want to follow along what's going on and you want to be alerted when I'm starting a new series, or you want to be there for like live events that I'm doing, and you never seem to catch the announcements about it in different places, that's going to be what you're going to want to sign up for. And like I said, it's not quite enabled yet, but I am going to be pushing it pretty hard because I would love to be able to have one place to post that I know for sure everybody's going to see it. So yeah, that's a tier that is not paid, but will be just like very information heavy. And I just wanted to, I keep forgetting and like intending to fit it in at the end of the episode, and then we run out of time and blah, blah, blah. So here I am. So yeah, guys, keep an eye on it. And like I said, I'll be alerting everybody when it's actually live. But I just wanted to give you a heads up so that you guys would also keep your eye out for it, because I can make the announcement about how it's gone live, but who knows if you'll see that announcement because social media. Am I right?
This is what I hear.
So, you know, anyway, okay. So this came to me because of talking about Keely doing like creative stuff and PR and social outreach and whatnot.
Gotcha.
And And yeah, she does like oh, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I knew as soon as she said that, somebody's going to ask, what wouldn't she do? And that is indeed what happens as she walks out the door. And then we go to Ted, who comes into Rebecca's office to find Trent Crimm, independent.
Yeah, so this has got a nice little development here. What did you think of this? Him asking to be embedded with the team because he wants to write a book about the season. Were you surprised?
I thought this made a lot of sense. It did surprise me because I kind of wondered if we were going to start making a connection with the new independent writer that we met in the last episode. And we could still do that. Like, it's not one or the other. But I just sort of thought, yeah, we're moving on, and this guy sailed off into the sunset to pursue his dreams in the end of the last episode. But he is such a good foil for Ted with being like genuinely like an open-minded individual, but who does take life pretty seriously, it seems. And it's not like he's cold about it, but he just has an extremely different approach from Ted, and yet is receptive to Ted's approach. So I think that he is a really good straight man, for lack of a better word, I guess. And because we've got a lot of goofballs happening. There are different types of goofballs, but it's a lot of goofballs.
It's just Goofy bouncing from off the walls at some certain points. And there are like moments where they really lean into it. From this episode, the entire locker room sequence is basic. It's like Zava. Being no, not that one. With the team finding out about Zava, but also
that's what I meant.
Oh, okay, yeah, that is.
It's like a who's on first routine.
It really is.
Why would Zava write a book about Trent Crimm or whatever the fuck he said?
And like halfway through it, you realize like, oh, I cannot believe they're going this hard at this joke, and I refuse to laugh at it. But then there you are.
Yeah, indeed. I giggled at that one, even though it was like a joke that I sort of saw coming, because of the frustration in his voice when he asks the question. He's genuinely like, you're not making any sense. And I'm like, you're right, that doesn't make sense.
The whole thing is so good. It's such a slow build too, but it's really a great moment. But here in the office, so Ted walks in, like you said, Trent's there, and we get also a very sitcom-y, all of them behind Trent's back, waving frantically, don't say yes, say no. And then Ted says yes anyway. And like, they're making, like, I thought that Trent's hair was blowing in the breeze for a second when I first watched, because there's so much action with the hands.
I'm trying to decide whether Trent's aware that they are doing this behind
Me too.
him. I feel like he knows.
He's got to know, right?
He knows. There's a whole. So there's this amazing thing that happens after Ted says yes. We hear that Zava is leaving Juventus. Is that the name? I don't even remember how he says this.
Well, that works for me. I really don't have any problems with that.
And Rebecca, she's just kind of like dismissive of the whole thing, because apparently his girlfriend or his wife said that she wants to live in England, and that's the only reason. Yeah, it's like she watched The Office.
He's a notorious drama queen. I think Higgins says 14 teams in 15 years. Very, very toxic to the locker room. But he is like the greatest player playing right now of a generation, like a Michael Jordan type talent. So
yes,
he's like someone that you would really want. And Rebecca's like, oh, we don't need the drama. We got a good team going. It's fine. And then when she finds out that Rupert might get him.
Yes. Chelsea, Arsenal, United, West Ham. I say, let's just go for it.
Right? Like that's
instant turnaround.
It's so quick. She doesn't even miss a beat. It's a great delivery of that line.
Like, It's so immediate a heel turn that for a second I thought I had misunderstood her stance at the beginning. Like I was doubting myself. She unintentionally gaslit me. And I love that Trent is 100% aware of what went on in her head.
Absolutely.
And she decides to just be fucking square with him about it.
She just says the thing. She just comes out and says the thing.
Yep. Yeah, he's like, am I to understand that you are solely going after a player that you otherwise had no interest in simply because your ex-husband might get him? And everybody is signaling for her to say no. And she just says yes. No justification.
Nope.
No defensiveness.
Nothing.
Just yes. And there's a pause. And he gives her a devious little look and says, love that.
That is so great.
I don't know. There's something flirty about it. I don't know. I don't think that they're, a good pairing.
No, but
I just felt a little something there.
There's just a little okay, I see that, and I approve of that.
It gives me the feeling that he sees through her ex's shit and is like, yeah, all right, fuck that guy. Like, if anybody had talked to her ex and seen that he was a piece of shit, this guy would have been in the position to see that,
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It feels like Trent would not be as enamored with Rupert as a lot of people are.
So, sorry, Yama's in the chat. Go Patreon. Love Trent. He's based on a real player too. Zava, I'm assuming. Okay. Yeah, that's unsurprising. It feels like a lot of people in this are based on real players. But the diva thing, like, that's certainly real. I mean, we saw that with Jamie already, so I'll be very interested to see Jamie's response to a player pulling some of the same shit that he has pulled.
Well, we get a little bit of it. We get a little bit of his response in this episode.
Yeah, but it's not a response to the player. It's a response to his friend's response to the player.
Okay.
Which isn't the same thing. I want to see what it's like one-on-one when he's on the receiving end of somebody who totally thinks that he is beneath him. That's what I'm really curious. Like, how is he going to cope with a person who basically feels like I'm slumming it with you guys, which is very much the vibe that Jamie had in the first season.
Right.
I don't need to be here, Yeah.
So we, I'm just thinking about when we meet Zava later in the episode, but I don't want to jump ahead again.
So we have Ted and Keely chat for a moment. She expresses some concerns about her uptight compatriots. He suggests going out to do something together, and her
go-to is like the wildest thing you can think of.
Oh my God, maybe I could hire a shaman and we could do a bunch of ayahuasca under a blood moon. I was thinking something like an escape room, but yeah, whatever. And I'm just like, Keely, babe, Rebecca's like your closest friend at the moment, and I don't think she would agree to do that with you. Just stop for a second. Just take a deep breath. Recenter yourself. Remind yourself who you're dealing with. No. Going out for drinks even, that's already pushing it. And that's like baseline, I don't know. I think an escape room, that's too much also for these people.
I would not want to do an escape room with anybody I work with. But, I think her little picnic potluck thing in the conference room was appropriate. Like, that's fine.
That's not outside of work, though, because that's specifically what Ted said. Maybe she could have them to her house for dinner. That could work. Yeah,
I have no objectivity. I can't think about socializing in a work context without thinking about my actual work context, which is why I have this horrible look on my face.
Yeah, and it's a thing that I always think is so weird is like you'll run into this a lot in especially like Japanese based stories where somebody's like boss is coming over and they have to like cook a meal and impress the boss.
Oh, that's
but it also is a plot in like I Love Lucy episodes.
I was going to say that's very like 50s, 60s sitcom TV.
Yeah,
that's funny.
And I just imagine it being like an expectation that you host your boss at your home. That's so strange. Like that was a thing.
I can't believe that was ever a real thing. I think that's a complete invention. I don't have anything to base that on, but I refuse to believe that's a real thing.
I could see that just being invented for TV. You know what had happened? They invented for television for the plot. And then some psychotic boss somewhere is like, yes, my employees should host me at their homes and make me meals. I don't have a wife, and they do.
Right? That tracks. That absolutely tracks.
This is when Isaac asks her for a shoe deal.
What brand?
She asks what brand?
Just shoes.
In general, you know?
All the shoes. And then we have a very awkward handoff with Roy and Keely in the hallway. And Isaac and then Jamie are watching. And Isaac realizes
yeah, because Jamie talks to her first.
Just like, hey, how you doing? But they don't talk about anything.
A real awkward little.
Yeah.
I was at the gym. I was doing at the gym. So, yeah, all right. Well, I'll see you later. And I was like, woof, that was loaded right there. But yeah, Ray's giving her a bag of stuff.
And that's in the boys see. And Isaac is the one who's like, they're breaking up. He could tell by the body language. Arms crossed. Roy's ass, I think he says, is tuckered. Clenched.
They're just not looking at each other. Her whole like stance is sort of hunched over and she just looks really sad. And I really thought that Jamie was going to like try to walk up to her and talk to her. And instead he goes to Roy. And Roy, understandably, in my opinion, is like, oh, you just want to ask if it's okay to date her?
Oh.
But
you think that's
Jamie
understandable?
Is like 100%. Look, I get that we have seen Jamie change, but I do not blame anybody who doesn't believe in the change that they're seeing, that it's complete. You know, like people don't always just leave behind behaviors. And Jamie was very single-minded and self-centered. And him coming to check on Roy because he like is just trying to see how he's doing. That's a pretty big change. And I understand Roy, who has always butted heads with Jamie to begin with, still seeing the worst in him a little bit. You know?
Were you surprised? You thought that your like instinct was that Jamie was probably gonna try to ask for permission to date Keely? Were you surprised it turned out to be like a sincere kind of, I was trying to comfort you?
Well, I didn't think he was doing what Roy thought, but I understood why Roy thought that.
Okay.
So I also just was like, I can't think of another reason why you'd come talk to him other than to be like, are you okay? And that's just a terrible idea, Jamie. Why are you coming here and asking him that? If there's anybody he'd want to talk to about this, her ex that she left for him isn't the guy he wants to have this conversation with. Like, it just felt like such bad judgment on Jamie's part. I respect that he wanted to do a nice thing, but
Jamie is very new to the doing a nice thinking of other people things, so he's going to have some missteps.
True. Oh, Yama asks, how do you feel about the breakup? Yama, we talked about that in the last episode, which hasn't posted yet. So I'm not going to answer that here simply because we are always short on time.
Right.
And I feel like we've kind of covered it.
I do want to say,
if we have time, we can circle back around.
I do want to say something about the breakup only because it comes up in this episode. There's a moment towards the end where Roy is lamenting having left Chelsea too soon because he was afraid of being broke down. And Ted says, yeah, sometimes people think it's better to quit than to be fired.
Yeah.
And that is my opinion of the breakup. That is what Roy did. He quit before he could get fired because he was insecure. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, agree. Like, he saw how she was rocketing upward in her career and wasn't necessarily going to have time for him. And I think he thought his days were numbered. And, so what if they are? Try to protect yourself and then you just shoot yourself in the foot like a goon.
So after he firmly rebuffs Jamie's attempted comfort,
he does.
Jamie says, when he says, you were coming in too fast or whatever, Jamie says, oh, I forgot all you old geezers that fought in the war get scared or triggered easily or something.
Oh my God. I think he said something like jumpy, but yeah.
But, and then when this is all done and Roy is screaming at him, don't tell anybody, don't tell anybody. Jamie turns around and is like, and that goes for you too, Will. And the camera cuts, and Will the Kid Man has been there the whole time. And he starts to say that he just went through a breakup and maybe they could all go get drinks sometime. And that's awkward enough. And then for some reason he says, fish bowls. Like,
Single Guys Club or something like that. I was like, oh man, dude. Wrong crowd.
Oh, he is adorable. He is really adorable.
I also want to mention, of course, Jamie assumes Roy got dumped. So when Roy says, I dumped her, Jamie's legit, genuine reaction is, why?
Everybody's reaction is that.
Complete incredulity. And I love that everybody likes Keely so much that even though Roy is like, kind of a star and really well liked by a lot of people and successful, nobody thought she was getting the better end of this. Everybody was like, wow, lucky guy.
To a man, every single one of them, assumed she dumped him. I love that so much. It just speaks to just what like a genuinely wonderful, like generous, good person Keely is, how well loved she is by everybody, and how much everybody sees her value. Yep. Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Which probably to Roy just cements that he did the right thing, since absolutely everybody clearly kind of thought she was a little too good for him already.
Yeah.
And it was only going to get more disproportionate, so he got out in time.
That's what being insecure will do to you. I mean, it didn't have to be like that, but
no.
So I'm sorry, is there anything else before I go to the beard walking in on Ted reading?
No. Yeah, no, that's it. He's reading the inverted pyramid. Is that what it's called again?
I think so.
And Ted's like stuck on the table of contents. It's too much for him. Although he does call soccer football later without thinking about it and is like, I guess that book really got through to me.
So Ted doesn't get the hype about Zava and doesn't know who he is. And Beard is like, no, you do. And I assumed we were about to watch a highlight reel of some of his best goals or plays. But that is not what we get. Oh, so you weren't okay, I fell for it. You didn't fall for it.
When he says you already know who he is, I thought we were about to see like a reality show clip or something that went viral that was like really weird. This is way better than what I was expecting. Because I thought it was going to be something that was sort of like, this person looks like an asshole. And instead, he just seems like a complete stone cold badass. Like a lunatic for sure. But also, goals, not gonna lie. He just headbutts that guy and then walks out with his shit. I don't think he even paid.
He does not.
I can't be mad at that. If you fucking stop a guy from holding the place up, I think you get to walk out with your armful of groceries, and that's not a problem. I'm not going to be mad at you for that. So, this really, for me, this like footage, I'm like, he has earned himself a lot of diva points for me
already.
I get mad at him.
Okay, so he's got some in the bank. All right, so he's starting off strong for you, is what you're saying. All right.
Very, very much. He could, like, tackling this guy wouldn't even have been. It's the headbutt.
Well,
he doesn't drop anything he's carrying.
I was gonna say he doesn't have to. He didn't even put his bag down. He's not gonna punch him or tackle him. He's got an armful of groceries. Yeah, it's pretty good. And it really did, you guys. I fell for it. I did not see that coming at all. So after that is when they can overhear, like, the boys in the locker room are just starting to get, like, really aggro, and there's a lot of, like, yelling and cursing. And we hear somebody yell, like, take it back.
Shut the fuck up.
Right?
Oh my God.
And then a glorious about 2.5 minutes unfolds.
Is this about us getting Zava? What? We're getting Zava? I just wished for that 30 seconds ago. That's Danny.
I love that.
And everybody begins cheering and getting super hype. Wait, no, hold on a second. Okay, if y'all weren't talking about Zava, what were you so upset about? Is it because Trent Crimm's writing a book about us? What? Wait, Trent Crimm's writing a book about Zava joining our team? No, he's just coming here to write a book about the team. Zava's writing a book about us? No, Trent Crimm. Why would Zava write a book about Trent Crimm? And everybody starts to get very agitated again, and he has to stop them. And we find out that the rumor is about Roy and Keely breaking up. And it turns out everybody was extremely invested in this
everybody.
OTP.
When he says that, Beard lets out one of his his gasp. Ted faints.
It's like the room goes black for a minute. And then Roy walks in just as the coach is being helped back to his feet from his fainting spell.
And everybody looks at him with just, oh.
And he immediately assumes Jamie told. Jamie in the back, I didn't say anything. I came in and they were talking about us getting Zava. Wait, we're getting Zava? Roy, do you want to talk about it? No, I'm not talking about me and Keely. No, I meant Zava. Do you want to talk about it? Sure, he's nuts, but he'll help us win the games. That time I was actually talking about you and Keely. Oh my God, they got a lot of mileage out of this. They really did.
And like I said, at one point I was like, I can't believe I'm still laughing at this bit. But it just kept going. And then it ends with Ted sending Will to his apartment to grab his special breakup list CD.
Oh my God, it's so good.
To which Will is like, sure, what's a CD? And you think it's over, but it's not. Because Beard then says he's on the case. And Ted throws the keys. And he doesn't stop or catch him. He just hit him and hit the floor because he's already got his own set.
Just lets him fall. Did you see that list that Kinea shared today about, like, you get a point for each thing you haven't done?
Mm-mm.
And it was like, listen to a cassette, burned a CD, taped music off of the radio onto a cassette, sent a fax, used a CD-ROM, used a floppy disk. And it was like a list of like 20 things. I got 0 points. I did all of them. I've done all of them.
Then there's no need for me to see this list then.
There are so many little things. Like, there was somebody who shared a meme of a person looking at a floppy disk and saying somebody 3D printed the save icon.
Oh, I saw that. I remember that.
And I was like, I don't even know if that's a real, like, reaction or if somebody just said this to really emphasize. Either way, that just hurt me in the heart. That was a really, like, somebody else going, what is this? Why is this supposed to be a phone? Like this hand gesture where you put your thumb and your pinky up.
Oh my God, I haven't even thought of that. I have not.
Yeah, things like.
Oh, that's so. Oh no, no.
Because now you just go like this, just holding it.
I mean, you don't even have to do that.
Phone.
You just have your things in your little buds in your ear. I'm I don't want to go to bed now. I'm suddenly very, very tired.
Anyway.
So then we have Higgins bringing Trent down to the locker room to introduce him to the boys and, make the news official.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one Roy Kent who is not happy.
Nope. And he says, don't talk to this cock. Is that what he says? He calls him a cock? I don't remember.
I assumed prick because he always calls everybody a prick. I just assumed that's what he said here.
I thought that this was a reaction to the breakup news and that he was afraid that it was going to like go into the book.
Oh,
but it turns out like there's a whole other thing happening.
It turns out
that I wasn't aware of.
It turns out to be a very personal thing. And when I first watched the season, I remember in this moment being like, "Oh, I wonder what's going on there," and sort of anticipating it being a longer plot point. But it gets resolved by the end of this episode. I was just like, oh, okay.
Nice. Glad we got to sidestep all of that drama.
All right. But yeah, so, and it ended up being something pretty touching, especially for Roy, which is this really damning article that Trent wrote when Roy debuted, and he was still just a kid. And Trent just, like, took him out of the knees. And Roy carries that newspaper clipping. And speaking about things that don't exist anymore,
wild
newspaper clippings. But yeah, carries it in his wallet. Yeah.
I want to be like, oh, you could print out an article from online, but nobody has a printer anymore.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. You could print it at work if you've got if they have toner, adequate toner.
Bitch, how about
otherwise you pull up a screenshot now?
The printer at work is out of toner right now.
Is it? I fucking called it. Toner's a fortune. That's why somebody cornered the market on toner and they just went and retired on a beach somewhere after their monopoly took over corporate America. What a racket. Toner. Yama says, next postcard, picture of a telephone, and Rashawn's comment, oh no. I really wonder what that would seem like out of context. But okay, I don't want to talk about the scene quite yet with the article though, because we have the most bizarre thing where we go to the commercial they are filming of a lamb who is at a nightclub, and they are filming the lamb down amongst all of the dancing shoes, and there are so many extras, even though it's a lamb. You don't need all this. But it is apparently going to be that the lamb drinks whatever alcohol they're trying to sell and then turns into a lion.
A beautiful woman dressed like a lion.
Turns into a smoking hot lion.
Yeah.
And Rashawn, I will tell you, I definitely thought she meant an actual lion.
I mean, I feel like that would have made more sense, but
I just thought we were going to get a super cool lion chilling with like disco lights on him. And I was like, I would remember that commercial.
Keely, remember her dressed as was she a lion in one of the first episodes in the first season? When she had to pick between a lion
I don't remember that.
A lion and a panda on the commercial suit. It's when Ted shows up and feeds her the hamburger, and then the paparazzi gives the picture.
I forgot about that, yeah.
And I think she's dressed like a lion in that. And now we have her directing.
Oh, is she? I thought she just had really bad hair for that commercial.
Yeah, it was. She had to choose between a lion and I think a panda, and she asked Ted, and Ted tells her to be a lion.
I agree. But I don't remember that.
Yeah, and so now we have her directing a commercial with another model that's in the lion suit.
These people who are running this shoot are very concerned that she doesn't understand that the lamb can't drink the alcohol.
Yeah, they don't think she understands. I love that they say that
Why
to each other.
Why do they not think she understands?
Like, I don't know.
She's very clearly just like, yeah, okay, I know. It's fine. Give the lamb water with dye in it.
She didn't express the urgency that they were looking for, so they assume that means she just doesn't understand the seriousness of the situation.
So, in other words, because she's not throwing a fit and being like, "What do you mean we can't get the lamb to drink the alcohol?"
No,
they think she just doesn't understand it.
No, I think that they wanted her to be like, "Oh, absolutely, I understand. We will definitely make sure that the lamb won't be anywhere near the alcohol," and instead she's just like, of course we understand a lamb can't have the alcohol.
And
they
okay,
just,
gotcha.
Or it could just be they're the type of people that direct commercials, and this is what they think of people who don't direct commercials.
Damning. Wow. Anybody who's listening who directs commercials, I don't know why you're here. This is when her friend rolls up and calls out to her, Keely fucking Jones.
And her name is
Shandy.
Shandy.
Her name is Shandy fucking Fine. And she is wearing the ears and has her hair teased out and is wearing almost like a flapper style, like beaded dress that I think is meant to evoke fur. Nothing about this says lion to me except her coloring and that it's like vaguely cat ears. Overall, thumbs way down. Not loving it. Lame as hell.
Oh, so Keely dropped the ball on this. I mean, this is her deal.
I just she didn't know this girl was doing it, so I'm going to assume Keely had not seen the commercial until now. But I don't know, maybe this is like a theme with this particular brand, is that they do this same shtick over and over again, and it's not Keely's fault. But whatever it is.
Oh, I love that. I love this idea that this is the brand's idea.
The brand is just like, yeah, we have a lamb that turns into a hot woman who's also a lion, and we just do that every commercial. Sure. Dumber things have been done.
That is really funny. I mean, we had that dog that was the mascot for that beer for like 10 years. We all got convinced that there was a dog that really knew how to party. And we were all like, yeah.
What
girl,
dog?
The fucking Bud Light dog. We had the ring around his eye. You guys in the chat, somebody help.
Ring around his eye.
He had the black circle around his. You don't know what I'm talking about? The Bud Light dog?
No.
Oh my God.
When I think of a dog with a ring around its eye, I'm thinking of the Target dog. It's a white dog with a red eye.
You guys, Natasha doesn't know about the dog. How do you not know about the dog? The dog. All right,
just let me Google Bud Light dog. Hold on.
He surfed. He got all the hot chicks in bikinis. He was super chill. God. He was the life of the party. I'm pretty sure
the Target dog, I think, is the same breed of dog. So they just stole this idea. Yeah, okay. He is a very unattractive dog.
Yeah, it was
I don't know why they picked this dog.
It was one of those weird pointy face bulldogs. That's what I call him.
I don't like it.
What was his name?
But,
Spot? What the fuck was his name?
Groundbreaking.
I don't think it was
Spuds McKenzie.
Spuds McKenzie. There it is. He wore like Hawaiian shirts and shit.
And sunglasses. Yep. He was a real party dude.
So again, I'm
so bored of this dog.
I'm going to refer you back to my earlier comments about people who direct commercials.
So yeah, I mean, I think that it's possible. That's what's going on here. I'm not trying to blame Keely for it, is all I'm saying.
The best part of this reunion with Shandy, though, is she ends up telling Keely that she is like high key an inspiration, though, because of all the little crew of like modeling girls that they were, living together and partying. Everybody just married soccer players. And as Shandy tells Keely, she made it out on her own. And they're just all really proud of her. And it's a really, really sweet moment.
It's a really sweet moment. Keely is so taken aback by this. And it's just ruined by the sudden smell of lamb droppings, which are particularly pungent.
I mean,
when the lady starts to try and sweep them up,
this cracks
Shandy
me up.
is like, don't sweep it. That'll just smear it. You've got to pick it up like sushi. Which is a weird way to say it. And then I was married to a footballer. What?
I laughed so hard. We get no explanation.
Ma'am?
That's it. She says it and the scene is fucking over. That's it. We
like,
don't
it's
come back
just
to
like,
that.
well, you know how they just shit on the floor?
Or maybe he owned goats. I don't know. I don't know. And we'll never know.
I am not okay with this. This is too close to that like joke post that I made about am I the asshole, where women will be like, am I the asshole for not wanting my boyfriend to keep shitting in the middle of our living room floor? And the boyfriend would be like, am I the asshole for shitting on the living room floor and also in the trunk of my girlfriend's car? That's too close. I don't like it.
I'm
God.
more comfortable with my theory that, you know, they owned exotic animals, or maybe not necessarily exotic animals, but animals you wouldn't think of normally as being pets in the house.
You're very generous.
I am, to a fault.
That is not what she meant. Let's
to
be
a
honest.
fault. I have to find a way to live this life, Natasha.
So Keely comes up with an idea. Well, this is after she gets told that they need like 100 more extras for this shop because the club feels too empty.
Oh, Shandy.
Which is really weird.
Shandy comes up with the idea.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Keely comes up. I was going to say that she comes up with the idea to hire Shandy, but it's because of what Shandy does here.
Gotcha.
And Shandy says, just do a strobe effect and let people cross really close to the camera. It'll look packed and you won't have to spend all the extra money. And they are like, thank you so much. And my instinct here is to be like, the people filming a commercial don't know how to make it look like there's a lot of people. That doesn't feel likely. And then I'm like, incompetent people are doing jobs all over the place.
It's true.
And I just have to remember, they're not necessarily there because they know what the fuck they're doing.
That's true. They could be somebody's something. Girlfriend's uncle's stepdaughter or something. You just never fucking know.
Indeed. So yeah, this is what gives Keely the idea, because Shandy says something like, maybe one day I'll make it out like you did, and gives her a wink before she walks away. And it's clear that Keely is just like, you know what? I am going to try and adopt her.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Which
I love that.
I understand this instinct.
It definitely feels like she had such a great experience with Rebecca, and the opportunity to strike out on her own and then be someone else's mentor, like she says to Barbara later on in the episode. And it's just in Keely's nature, right? It just feels like, of course she would do something like this, very willing to help somebody out, even at a time where she could be a little selfish, and focus just on getting her own thing up and running and successful, but she's still willing to extend an opportunity to someone, even when she's not on sure footing, which, is a risk, but she is,
definitely,
she's like very, I don't know, what do you want to say? She really thinks intuitive? The best of, but no, not just intuitive, but is so willing to think the best of people, and
gotcha.
to think of their potential and just, see the best side of them. Which not everybody does. I don't really do that naturally. So
same.
And that's probably why she's so universally loved, probably.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy too, anytime that there's this is a big thing in the book series Dandelion Dynasty, which I highly recommend, guys. And I've been commissioned to cover it for Spoil Me, and I'm on the last book. And there is a main character in the first book who begins to assemble a sort of council around him. And he does so by finding people who are really good at things, but are extremely marginalized, whether it's because they are maybe sex workers or uneducated and impoverished, but they show a particular aptitude for something. And he will be like, no, you know what? Yeah, I feel like they get it. They get it. And he just takes them on, and he winds up becoming incredibly successful as a ruler because he is so good at sensing when the traditional methods of sussing out who's good at something are really limited. You know, you're looking at resumes and you're looking for like the same kinds of qualifications all the time, that you overlook somebody who might actually be great at the job because you have these like bare minimum requirements that are going to weed out a lot of folks. And that's the point of those requirements, is to shorten the list. But this character doesn't really abide by that at all. And he winds up finding people who are extremely out of the box thinkers because of them not having a lot of those traditional educations. And so they are forced to like use other skills because certain doors were closed to them. And it makes them a lot more innovative because they have to work around not having a lot of the tools that other people had access to. And
we should have more of that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Keely is sort of showing that here. Like, she sees this girl and is just getting a sense of like, and that doesn't mean that she's gonna roll in and just knock them dead right away, because we do see her being like, get champagne from and use the company card to pay for it. Like, she is not she's not the serious people yet.
I love that that's shorthand now.
That's a little Succession reference. But yeah, I'm hopeful that like she'll start to get it together, you know, and like understand the culture, and you can still push the envelope. Keely is, but you just have to be strategic about it, and you've got to prove yourself in other ways before you do it, so that it doesn't just seem like you're full of shit trying to pull a fast one.
Right.
You know?
Right.
We have this weird call between Rebecca and her mom, because her mom FaceTimes her, and she's on some like camping retreat, but she doesn't want to sleep outside, so she's in this like gorgeous hotel on Wi-Fi. She says sleeping outside, the stars are staring at her. I'm just like, what dark past are you hiding from that you can't stand the unwavering, penetrating gaze of the stars? It just feels like you're running from something in your history, ma'am.
Her mom is, she's, first of all, there's something about the angle of the FaceTime, which it sort of exaggerates the mother while she's speaking to Rebecca, that makes her sort of seem even more kind of like zany, for lack of a better word.
That was not the word I was expecting, but I like it. Yeah.
But, you know, and if I'm not mistaken, we don't get that view of Rebecca in the FaceTime camera. You know, we never see it from the mom's point of view. So it's just the mom, and she's making these very intense expressions. And because of the close up, it really does feel like, oh my.
Yeah. Yep. It's really fun too, because I've seen this actress cast as a mom a million times, and she's usually cast as like this incredibly uptight, stick up her ass sort, or at least snobby.
I saw a list of a couple things she's in, but I can't remember any of them. Do you know which one can you think of the shows that she's been in?
Is she the one on Succession that plays their mom? Doesn't she?
I think so. I think you're right.
That's like, and everybody is like, all of the food in her home is like non-fat because she's basically got an eating disorder that she inflicts on her children, which is so like painfully relatable. And she says something about hearty fare but small portions, and Robin is like, wow, that's new. But yeah, the fact that she's getting to play such a silly character here, I feel like must be kind of a fun break for her. Yeah. You know?
I mean, she does look,
because it is just truly goofy.
That's the other thing too about the show. It really does feel like the actors are having like a lot of fun with their roles. Like, what was it last season when the African guy from Ghana came, and his whole
the billionaire
thing Edwin, and his whole thing was so over the top, but you could tell that guy was having a great time.
Yep.
And it feels the same with this actress too. Like they're just really enjoying this opportunity to just, you know,
definitely
really like just go hard
and she
at
like
it.
she calls Rebecca, but then it's like, oh, they're doing scream therapy. Favorite part, gotta go, and just like hangs up and runs away.
Rebecca's like, but you called me though. But the gist of the conversation is that we remember from when we first met her, Rebecca's mom, whose name is Lillian. Is it Lillian?
I do not remember.
I can't remember her name, guys. I'm sorry.
Even if you got it right, I don't think I'd know.
I don't know why. But she has the psychic that she goes to see, and right. So this call is she's giving Rebecca the great news that the psychic has finally considered making an appointment with Rebecca. Like it's not for sure yet, but she's thinking about it, and this is the big great news. And Rebecca is unimpressed.
I cannot wait. I love the trope of like the skeptic going into a psychic, and either it's clear the psychic is a fucking liar, or the psychic is real, maybe, or you can't tell if you're like, and
pick
either
one.
way,
Pick
the
one.
like, discomfort that comes.
Pick one.
What's that?
Pick one. If Rebecca goes to see the psychic, which of those scenarios are you hoping to see? I mean, because you figure it is a trope, so you're right. There's probably like 3 ways it can go. What do you want to see?
What my instinct is to be like, I want this psychic to be more like The Mentalist. Did you ever watch that show?
I did. I'm so embarrassed.
I fucking loved that
Did
show.
you? Oh.
And that lead dude was so fine. Like I had the biggest crush on him. He was actually Australian, I think I remember finding out, and just being like, of course he is. He's too hot to be American. But the whole thing was basically he was cold reading people. Mm-hmm. And so my instinct is to kind of be like, I want them to be right, but not because they're psychic. But that's super uninteresting. So I think I'm going to be like, no, I want this to be a real psychic. I want them to be right, but in ways that are incredibly unhelpful and just kind of make Rebecca really paranoid. And that's the fun part. That's for me what I like, is like not whether or not the psychic's actually helpful. It's more the effect that it has to be told a thing on a character and how that character reacts, because we're all going to really do different. Like somebody like me, I go to see a psychic and a psychic tells me a thing and I'm going to walk out of there like, that was probably bullshit, but maybe. And then everything that's like kind of parallel to what they predicted that I am given an opportunity to do, I'll be like, well, the psychic did say, and it will hugely influence what I do. Even though I purport to not believe it, I will still kind of put like
just in
my
case.
faith in it.
Just in case.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to miss it because you were being stubborn.
Exactly. Versus somebody like Owen, who is such a non-believer that I think he would, out of spite, do the opposite of whatever it was the psychic even suggested on like the outside, you know, just to be like, yeah, no, fuck you. This is bullshit. Like, oh, you thought I was going to eat breakfast in the morning. You know what? Everybody has breakfast. You just said that. And I'm going to prove you wrong by just not eating breakfast. And then I'm going to have low blood sugar and be very angry by noon. And I'll show you. That's what I'm saying. So like, that's what I like about it, is like it's not really even about the psychic. It's about what the person does and whether they like realize they're doing it, whether they put it together, you know? But I really want her to go, and I want her to bring Keely. I want Keely to go.
Oh, how fun would that be?
God.
All
She'd
right.
be very impressionable.
All right, folks. Well, you heard it here first. We'll see what happens with that. So after Rebecca, I have forgot about the scene with Higgins giving Rebecca the news. This is news about Zava, right?
And he's like, oh, it's good news. He's going to Chelsea. And she's like, why is that good news? And he's like, because he's not going to West Ham. And once he has decided he's going to Chelsea, there's nothing Rupert can do about it. And she's like, why the fuck did you just say those words? You fucking ruined it. It's jinxed. Thanks. And then later on, he kind of says the exact same shit. And she's like, you jinxed it twice. Wow. I really thought you got it the first time. Apparently not. So we're just going to sit here and just jinx all over the place.
I am Higgins in real life. Mm-hmm. I jinx the fuck out of shit. I can't help myself. I have to say the thing. Even when you're not supposed to say the thing. I just be saying the thing, y'all. I don't know.
She does too, guys. We have been there where she's just like, oh, look, we had no tech problems today. And I'm like,
I do it all the time.
You fucking just said it out loud. What are you thinking?
I don't, and then I'm like, I'll be really flippant about it. And I'll jinx myself. I'm like, I have no respect for the jinx.
She does, though. She knows.
I do. I have nothing but a huge amount of respect for the jinx. I just don't be thinking.
So then we have a series of moments. We'll just talk about them like as a group of Trent coming into places and everybody clamming up with him around.
Yeah.
It's like he walks into the locker room and they all shut up. Even when he walks by people in the hallway, they won't talk around him. And he's trying really hard to like work with it and be a good sport about it. But it's clearly like a bummer.
Yeah.
And then it turns out he has to share an office with Roy, which is just unbelievable.
Ted did this. Now, we know Ted thinks that this is going to force a thing, right?
Probably.
Which I think if it was going to work, he wouldn't have needed to pull Roy aside like he does later on. So this putting them in the office together, I think is just mean. It's just mean.
Yeah, I've got to agree. And it's an amazing scene because
it really is.
He's trying to play it cool. He really is like, but you can see that he's so uncomfortable with the whole arrangement, and Roy is just glaring at him.
Can we just mention Roy's desk is covered in sympathy shit for the breakup? He's got like teddy bears.
It's
and
like he
flowers.
Just got diagnosed with cancer.
There's a stack of balloons that say "I'm sorry," and there's a card that he opens that is a giant cutout of the letter C with a bunch of fish, drawn on it. And it open it up and it says there are plenty of fish in the sea. I don't know who it's from. I couldn't tell who it was from. I had to freeze it to like read the card.
It said a woman's name, I feel like. Liza. I don't know who that is. Who's Liza? Is it supposed to be like the cleaning lady? Is that what it's supposed to be? That it's somebody who's like so low on the totem pole that the fact that they know is extra insulting? I think that's what's meant to be happening here.
Maybe.
And Trent decides to try and engage him about how he's doing with his like career. And I love that the camera just lingers on the back of Roy's head to emphasize that just because he's not looking at you doesn't mean you can't tell he's glaring at you. It doesn't. You don't need to see his eyes. You're aware. You know that's what's happening.
And then he gets a
call. And he apologizes. I'll make this quick. And it's just like evidence. He's in his own office. He should be allowed to take a fucking phone call. That's what offices are for.
He is hunched over practically under the desk, whispering into his cell phone. And then suddenly a loud pop. Like a gunshot.
This caught me so off guard. It really startled me, you guys. When he jumps and looks over his shoulder, I was like, yeah. And Roy has just taken the balloons and is slowly popping them one by one to drive him out of the room. I thought he was popping them out of malice because he doesn't want the balloons and he resents getting them.
No, those are very
once he leaves
targeted.
The office, Roy leaves them alone.
Very targeted balloon pops. I had tears, you guys. I laughed so fucking hard at this. I could not believe how hard I laughed. It was just, again, just really well done. I love your point, too, about staring at the back of Roy's head, and you can feel the heat radiating off of his skull through the television screen. So good. So good. And then finally Trent like just has to slink out of his own office.
I really felt for Trent here because it's just such a wall. Like, how do you reason with a person like that? You know,
you can't. You absolutely cannot. So we go back to Keely's, and she's got Shandy there, and they're, kikiing it up, and it's the first day. And Barbara comes in, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time. We talked about her a little bit, but she's got a deal, right?
Yeah.
What do you think her deal is?
She seems pretty bitter. I am not sure if it's because, like, so here's what happens in this scene. It is her getting angry at the fact that this girl Keely has hired for a made-up position is also Keely's friend and is basically just feels like a straight-up cronyism, nepotism hire. Right. Like, this is something that we all have seen. And this is how things work a lot of the time.
Right.
So I can't even blame her for being angry because it feels like horseshit. It feels insulting if you have like worked your way up to then have somebody get swooped in just because of who they know.
Right. I remember
but it's also like how it works.
Yeah, and when we had Rebecca do this exact thing for Keely, we all kind of, and I say we collectively, not just me and you, but like the audience, generally speaking, kind of all like applauded it. And Rebecca even says in that scene, when Keely is like, you can't just give me a job. And Rebecca's like, men do it all the time. So then we see Keely, paying that same thing forward. And then here comes this other woman, and she doesn't have the reaction to this like the audience, like we all did, like, good for her doing it. And this woman, how much of this do you think is her resenting Shandy getting a job just because they're friends, or just her general, it seems like, complete lack of respect for Keely? Because
I think it's a lack of respect for Keely, and also, and due to that, like, because it's unclear to me how much Keely has proved herself to anybody regarding what she's trying to do with this company. So I am wondering whether Barbara thinks that she has been given this, like, this group and stuff as just a sort of lark. Like, maybe she didn't earn her place either, and she just knew somebody who was like, oh yeah, I have a random team of nobodies that are not important enough to put on real work. So I'll give them to you for this bullshit job. And if you're Barbara, who is clearly like a competent person who takes her job seriously, but you feel like you've been foisted off on a fucking nobody to do a junk job, that's super insulting in the first place. And then to see her just like bring a friend in who feels extremely unserious, that's going to make your job look even more of a joke. It's going to make you seem like, especially if you're doing this because you're trying to get your foot in the door in something better. If there is a person who seems completely unqualified, who's kind of your peer, it's not going to make you look good. That
I really like that perspective.
That's
very interesting.
So it's like, that's a struggle here, is like, I want this for Shandy. I want her to get a chance because she is the exact type of person, I feel like, that wouldn't be taken seriously. When you are a woman who hasn't gotten an education, and especially if you've made a job out of your looks for a long time, it's just not going to be easy for you to be taken seriously by anybody.
Yep.
So that's not fair, and I want her to get her shot. But I can't even be that mad at Barbara for the way she reacts here, because were I her, I feel like I would be rolling my eyes so hard at this whole thing, especially because Keely doesn't even think through what she's going to say her job is.
Yeah.
She introduces her to Barbara without a fucking job title even. Like,
Mm-hmm.
have the self-respect or the at least dignity for this person to have a prepared statement of what you think they're going to do and at least pretend
Right.
that this is like a legit thing you've actually thought through. The way that she has to just piece words together that are absolute nonsense. It's just like, you know,
right. It's definitely it is not one of Keely's best moments. I will say that.
no.
However, I was so glad when she went in and she told Barbara that despite all of that, you don't get to treat people that way. That's not how we behave in this office. But because she was just really rude and condescending, and you know, CFO or not, Keely's the boss here, and this is the she was this disrespectful when Rebecca was there visiting last time. So, but you are right. Keely does not approach this opportunity with Shandy in a very professional manner.
No.
But maybe she felt like she didn't have to because, you know, this is her shit.
I mean, like, she doesn't have to.
Right.
But there's a difference between you can get away with not doing a thing and getting away with it is going to make the job better or easier for anybody. Like, if she just wants to pull Shandy in and have her do stuff, that can happen. But Shandy isn't going to be necessarily respected by anybody or treated well or get like the cooperation she needs to do the job right if you handle it that way. You gotta set her up to succeed. So yeah, I don't know. I like Shandy, as much as she was rude in her attitude, what she said was, got it. So you have an old friend who is a model, has no education, no experience in this area for a job that does not exist. Lovely. Is that not literally the exact truth? Like, sure, it wasn't kind, but it is also the exact to the letter thing that is happening here. And she is just saying it out loud. And I'm sorry, I'm not that mad at her. Like, it was bitchy, but I think that Keely needed a bit of a reality check for a second. I appreciate that Barbara seems like contrite when Keely comes in. She seems to have an expression of like, I know I shouldn't have said it like that. I don't know. I'm not as mad at her as Keely was.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we had a scene where Higgins had come in and spoken to Rebecca that way about Keely just being the new person that's handling PR for a Premier League soccer team. Who has no experience, no formal education, you know, how that would have gone over. You know what I mean? And what we would have thought of that, and would we have been like, oh, Higgins has got a point there, or would it have been, you know, like, well, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, it's like, it's really easy to be like, oh yeah, you should give them a chance because clearly they've got something. If you know the person and you've seen them interact and you understand anything about them. But if you're looking at it from the outside, she was some footballer's girlfriend, ex-model, who was bored and started doing another thing and just got a fucking company made for her. That's insane. That's insane. Like, it's just, life isn't fair, and there are probably a million people out there who would be just as good, if not better, at this job than Keely, and she happened to be at the right place at the right time, and that's just how it fucking works.
And that's how it works, and that's something that we are not nearly as honest about as we should be in this society. We really are not as honest about that, because this stuff happens all the time across all kinds of industries where people who... Now, no disrespect to Keely. We don't know much about Shandy yet, but we did see Keely even though it's clearly exceptional, right? Like real world, never.
Mm-hmm.
But the show tried to show us Keely being successful in bits and pieces, right? They have her starting out doing like small things for the players, getting them sponsorship deals. Then she gets the text app, the Banter, and
right, yeah,
Banter doing PR for them, and then they turn around and become the main sponsor for the entire football team. So that's huge. And that is what gets Keely on the radar for the people that were behind Banter. She made them did so well by them that's
right.
who's funding her little project that she's got now. And I said little project. That's so rude. I didn't mean it like that, y'all. I can't say little in front of anything because it ends up sounding really shady. I think
it's true.
I don't know why, but it just does. But so they tried to show us Keely progressing, right? To kind of make this evolution make sense, but it's still wildly spectacular and like not based on reality, right?
And like this girl, did she speak up with a good idea? Yes, one time about how to film a video. And like, does that mean that she will be good at the job?
We'll see.
Very much not necessarily. Like I believe in her also. I think that Keely has good instincts, but there is very little to go on here. And really, honestly, the issue with this again is if Keely had gone in and spoken to Barbara before Barbara walks in on the two of them being chummy on the couch, and Shandy's got her shoes off and her feet up on the furniture and she's eating candy, and it's just like, oh, we're having a sleepover. It just feels wrong for the energy you want when you're trying to get a person integrated into a team that already exists.
The one thing I'll say about Barbara, and then I guess we could go on, is, and I know I make Simpson references all the time, but this is actually a really relevant one. Barbara has Frank Grimes energy. Do you remember the Grimy episode?
Oh, of course.
So the Frank Grimes episode of Simpsons, really quick, is probably one of the best of all the episodes. But what they did is they did like a weird, what if a regular person got plopped into the Simpsons and met Homer? What would their reaction be? And that's kind of like what Barbara is, because for Ted Lasso in the Richmond world, it's a bubble. Right? And they are all existing in this bubble of hyper privilege. You have Rebecca, you have these professional athletes, coaches. They are all existing at an elite level where the rest of the real world rules aren't really applicable, right? And then you take a Barbara and you plop her down in the middle of it. She is looking around like, this isn't how the fucking world works. What the fuck are you? What? And that's what Grimy was for the whole episode of Homer. Just being like, how you never go to work. You're not qualified for this job. How do you have a 3-bedroom house? And, he lives on top of a bowling alley and underneath another bowling alley. Like
such a good joke.
Like Homer, is out of, work 300 days of the year. He's been to space and won a Grammy. And Frank Grimes is like, what the fuck are you all talking about? This guy should have died years ago. And that's Barbara.
Yeah, it just really feels like this scene of like a higher up hiring a friend who isn't qualified is something she has seen a million times. Like you just get the energy of like, I just wanted to clarify. And exactly what I thought was happening is indeed happening. Okay. And there is a kind of interesting moment where Keely comes in to talk to her about this, and she notices all of the snow globes that Barbara collects, but is instead charmed by it, even though Barbara is very self-conscious about it, clearly. And I just liked that moment of like humanizing her a little bit, and Keely sort of being brought up short because she clearly was going to go into in on her. And then she sees them, and it sort of reminds her like, oh, this is also a person. Hold on. Like, because she's very defensive of her friend on instinct. But then she's reminded, oh, well, everybody has like a side of them that people don't get to see. So maybe I need to chill too.
And that's Keely. That's what we were saying at the very beginning of this episode, which is just her relentless ability to be empathetic and see like the human side, the best part of a person, even in a moment where she's heated, and she comes in to like give Barbara the business, and ends up completely softening her tone. Tells her about herself. Like, we don't talk to people like that here. They're, rude, made it feel bad. We don't do that here. But then ends it up on a very encouraging note. She said something like, someone gave me an opportunity. The company believes in you. They send you all around the world, to do this job. So they must believe in you. Mm-hmm. So maybe we can both believe in someone else, and it kind of ends on a much more, let's just try to be better together moment. Yeah. Yeah. Which is like Keely Jones TM. So
that is, basically, let's be better together. So, all right. We have a confrontation between Trent and, well, I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but we really don't need to get into the game all that much because we're also running out of time. But the game starts, and of course, Zava's here in the audience, and Rebecca has to just watch as Rupert comes up and,
oh my God,
like glad hands him. And she tells Keely the story about the way that he approached her at the bar and basically just like wore her down.
Two things I want to mention. The joke about Higgins jinxing again because he's telling Rebecca that Rupert's not there. And then it cuts to Higgins choking because Rupert shows up, but he jinxed it like the third time. And this story about Rupert and the way he pursued her, I often forget or forget to mention that Rupert was married when he started seeing Rebecca. Rebecca was the other woman. And it just, and I forget that often. And I will say, as a member of that, I still am in that Facebook group, y'all. It is a mess over there, but I stay because they have a lot of good screenshots and stuff. But it almost never comes up in conversation that Rebecca was the other woman. There is always an immense amount of sympathy for her relationship with Rupert, for Rupert cheating on her. And there's very little talk ever of the fact that she did that to some other woman. You know what I mean? And I'm just putting it out there. I think
she was some other lady's replacement,
and I just think that, I don't know. And the show doesn't shy away from it, but it, not there wasn't really reckoned with, in the first two seasons. And maybe they decided they didn't really have anything to say about that. I don't know. But every time that I'm reminded of that part of her history, I'm like, oh shit, that's right.
Yeah.
But
and it really makes sense too for like who he is and for who she was, and the way that her friend was like, you walked up the stairs to that tower. You did this like knowing who it was that you were dealing with. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing I think, and I say this with the full appreciation for the fact that I cheated on my first husband with Owen, who I am now married to. So I am saying this understanding that. But if you go into a relationship with a person who cheated on someone for you, there is no reason to think they are not going to do that to you. Like, I definitely could understand if Owen were paranoid about that with me. I am at an age where I have absolutely no interest in starting any shit with anybody else. Like, I love that you pass.
I love that it's your age keeping you from doing that.
I'm just like, I was young and full of energy and had the capacity to try and like do two things at once, and I don't have that shit anymore. Thank you very much.
Like how much time you invested? Like who has that kind of time?
I was unemployed. That's why.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. 100%.
Oh, Lord. I get tired just thinking about it. But
yeah, that's like, it's such a cliche for a reason. The people who are the other person they often turn out to be the one who gets cheated on because it's a pattern. So, and you know, you can look at it as karma, but I always like dislike that sort of presentation of it, because I feel like a person like Rebecca, she saw that he was married. Sure. She was also pretty young, and he is somebody who was just like relentless. She's working at a bar, and she says 6 weeks. He just came in like every night. And when you are young and you are overwhelmed by a person's like their position in the world, and I know that it's easy to just be like, oh, she was money hungry, but it's not just about
and
that.
She
it's
also
about the package.
She comes from money. I mean, she doesn't come from Rupert money,
right? True.
But she comes from, you know, she comes from a nice little bit of change. And she's working in a very, very fancy, exclusive, you know, and I don't think they name it, but it's like that place that they go, you know, that place that fucking in the Beard episode After Dark, and him and the boys go to the fancy club.
Oh, the club. Okay. Yeah.
Like one of those kind of, because Rupert's not just going to be at the corner bar, right? So she's working in a very high end exclusive place, you know. She's in her 20s. She knows she had drop dead gorgeous, because she's still drop dead gorgeous. And this man comes in and is laser focused on her. And when someone puts that much focus and attention on you, especially if it's someone, you know, you just, after a while, you're just like, shit.
This is called love bombing, by the way, for those of you who aren't aware and who are maybe like younger and not familiar with this.
Right.
Abusive partners will come in really hard at first, and they will shower you with attention and compliments and trips and gifts and just make you feel like the center of the universe. And it is to get your defenses down so that they can get you in a position where they are then controlling your whole life. And it is just like textbook. So the way he's doing this, it's like a combo of love bombing, because this is how he approaches women, but also Rebecca said no.
Yep.
And I am sure that doesn't happen to him often.
I'm sure.
So this is the thing. He wanted a thing that he couldn't have right away. And he decided to put the work in because it was a fascination to see if he could get her to say yes eventually. And, you know, the whole thing winding up married to him is honestly kind of an accomplishment, because I can't help but wonder how much he even planned to leave his wife when he first started talking to Rebecca. I have to imagine that wasn't part of his initial plan. And I say accomplishment with like big quotation marks around it. Trust me.
But
yeah,
also,
so
the last thing about that is just that he, as far as like choosing to marry Rebecca, is that his sort of need to have like a younger and hotter wife over and over again. I could see that being the only reason why. Like, not that he was ever planning on leaving his wife because he was unhappy, but just like, oh, I got this hot piece of ass. I want to show the world that I can still get this hot piece of ass. But the whole reason that she starts talking about how Rupert got her is she's trying to express to Keely and everybody, really, why she's so sure Rupert's going to get Zava. Because she's like, that's how he fucking got me. When he puts his mind to it and turns on his charm, it's impossible to resist him. And it cuts to him and Zava and Zava's people, and they're just like laughing it up and just having this great moment. And she's just like, look at him. Like, of course he's going to win. And you see it. Whenever we get those moments of watching Rupert perform and work a crowd, it is really scary to me, quite frankly. I get like kind of like goose pimples, like, oh, that's so fucking creepy, because that's what those people are like, you know? Yeah. Narcissists are fucking, holy shit, you guys. It is.
And she has a confrontation with him because she wants to get in to talk to Zava, of course. And there's a dude at the door who's like, you don't get in.
There's always a fucking dude at the door.
Oh God, I want to make you got to watch Gravity Falls, Rashawn. Written by a bunch of people who worked on The Simpsons too. It's like that kind of humor. You would really like.
I keep starting it.
there's a bouncer in that show who has tattoos on his face that say face and on his neck that say neck. And like, I just think of it with this like all the time. So anyway, Rupert walks up.
So stupid.
It's so stupid. That show is so good. But Rupert walks up and he knows what she's up to. And they have one of their little back and forths. And I hate the fact that Rebecca never goes hard enough. Mm-hmm. She always tries to be passive aggressive in a way that is too light on it's heavy on the passive and light on the aggressive. And he is always ready for it. And he always goes for the same jugular. And she is always exposed. Yeah. Rebecca, of course he's going to make a joke about how he goes for the new thing and gets tired of the old thing. How is this a surprise to you still? He has the playbook that he goes by. He's super predictable. You should have learned his little operating procedure at this point and be ready for it. Like, you know, I need her to be workshopping better comebacks and more aggressive intros because time has passed for this like, oh, you caught me off guard and my face falls kind of shit. No more of this. He is full of shit and does the same thing every time. You should know by now. Get it together, girl. I know you are more creative than this. You could do so much, you know, like, even if you're not going to throw fucking Sam in his face, which you shouldn't do, but also you could. And I wouldn't be that mad at you about it. But I just really, there is something so weak about the way he keeps like coming at her. Yeah. And it makes me enraged how effective it always is. When at this point, I feel like she should really see it coming and kind of have an eye roll reaction and not be as hurt by it because it's always the same thing. Like there comes a point where it's no longer a gut shot. Now it's, oh my God, again. Wow. You really just keep on. Yeah, I get it. I'm old. I'm 10 years younger than you, but sure. Like, you know,
something.
But anyway, yeah. So she gets so mad about this interaction that she builds up a head of steam and just storms right into the men's room where Zava is peeing in a urinal, longest piss I've ever seen, and gets right up in his face about how he is going to a team that is going to win whether he's there or not, and it's not going to prove anything, and he is just going to be able to coast and never actually have to like let people know if he's any good or not, like
because he knows in his heart he's not any good anymore and that he's not worth, he's overpaid and overhyped and eats too much asparagus.
So she leaves. I love Keely being like, did you sweet talk him? What's the opposite of that? Sour yelling. Yes, that is what I did. That's a really good line.
It's fantastic. I'd like to remember to incorporate that. Sour yelling.
So he has his press conference and the like coach or owner for Chelsea is like, haha, we've got him. And he rolls out and is like, I am not doing that. I am doing another thing. May I keep this pen? Thank you. And shakes his hand holding the pen up like this is some big deal that they like negotiated just now. That
just the pen.
This pen is honestly quite good.
There's also a moment when the team is coming out on the field and everybody acknowledges Roy, gives them a standing ovation. They chant the chant. There's a big sign, you know, there'll never be another one like you. And he's having this moment, you know, this moment that he had cheated himself from that he ends up talking about later. And it is when they are giving him all of his flowers that Zava shows up in the stands and the crowd eventually switches into like, oh my God, Zava's here. Just kind of sucks the wind right out of his moment. And then
that was still a great moment. It's not going to go on forever.
It was
come on.
And he didn't really have a big reaction after that one moment. So it, you know, I don't even know if he felt the way about the way it transitioned into being about Zava, but I felt like there was a moment on his face, you know.
Yeah.
This moment with Danny too, when Danny talks about Zava being in the stands and he runs up to Jamie and he's talking about how fast his heart is beating, and he has never like been this excited or something since he played in El Chapo's league. What a fucking backstory!
He scores a goal off his face and it's just like, did Zava see? Like, I love how irritated Jamie is by this. He is not going to react well, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Jamie is not a fan of the way the boys are reacting to Zava's. There's also a great moment.
He says something about how the fans are going to hate this, and then of course it cuts to everybody at the pub getting completely fucking psyched. We got Zava! Oh my god!
At the beginning of the game, they cut to the pub, and the boys are there, and Paul is wearing like a top hat because they're back in the Premier League.
God, I forgot that that's why. I was like, what is that? And she tells everybody to take it off when the first goal is scored against them. I did want to just like, we touched on it, but the scene between Roy and, oh my God,
Trent,
the writer,
Trent,
thank you. Kept wanting to say Kent. And I'm like, that's Roy's last name. The guys are like trying to talk at the halftime about what to do. And Trent walks in and they all clam up. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Guys are very impatient for the McDonald's.
I'm sorry, guys.
But they all like shut down, and Ted finally is like, enough of this already.
Yeah.
And he pulls Roy aside and is like, you have got to figure this out because I am sick and tired of it. And this is all about your ego, and you need to get whatever it is out of your system and move on like a fucking adult because you're going to ruin shit for everybody.
You're going to ruin the whole fucking thing.
And Roy, thankfully, sees the sense of this right away. And he finally pulls Trent aside and takes out that article and reads this like devastating couple of sentences. And he says, I was 16, I think he says. And Trent really just admits, I was trying to be edgy.
Yep.
I was trying to get attention and make a name for myself.
Yep.
And I appreciated him just like admitting that and saying that he was sorry.
100%.
You know?
Like, once again, accountability, you know, just fucking own up to what you fucking did. Be truthful about what your motivation was, why you did it, what you were hoping to get out of it, and apologize, you know? And then Roy is fairly gracious, actually, when he gets this apology, you know, doesn't tell him to, you know, shove it up his ass or anything. He says something like, you know, we both had something in common, you know, at the time.
We were both shit at our job.
I want to mention as the gang comes into the locker room at halftime, before they all get quiet because Trent shows up, Jamie is the one like trying to calm the team down and like get everybody refocused and like, this is what we need to do. And then when the conflict is resolved with Roy and Trent and they come back out, and then all the team just sort of like jumps on to what Jamie is doing. I mean, this is Jamie Tart showing us that he is a growing man. He's a growing, sexy
want to
baby.
be more into this than I am. I'm just not, you know, I want to believe it, but, and I mean, I do in terms of like, I think this is real for the TV show, but I don't know. He was just so effective as a piece of shit that it lodged itself into my brain. And I am like in Roy's shoes where I can't see him any other way. You're just a cunt. You just are. And you can do all you want to try and like make up for it. And I encourage that, but that's it. That's it for me. I mean, other people, you're winning them over. Good for you.
That's fair.
You know?
He has a lot of bad behavior behind him. And, you know, it is not, like you said earlier, it is not something that happens overnight. You know, it is consistency and it's actions. And, you know, not saying he's there. I just want to give him a little shout out because I see him.
Does he ever apologize to Nate? I can't remember if he has or not.
Yeah.
Jamie. He did, right?
Yeah. I try to remember exactly when, but definitely.
I can't remember how that scene went, though, like how Nate responded to it or anything.
I can't believe I can't remember. It's all like mushed in my head.
Yeah.
But
and so I feel like we're almost out of time here. What else are we missing? Because I do enjoy Zava saying that he's going to play for Richmond, and you see Rupert in his car calling him a wanker.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what he had in his hand, but he like sort of chucks something across the car.
I just think it was his phone, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I think it's his phone. So it's just they cut to the bar, everybody's going crazy. The end of the episode, everybody is saying goodnight. They're all excited because they got a tie. And then what is Roy doing?
Oh, that's right. This is the conversation about Roy being sad when he went back to Chelsea.
Right.
And some people would rather quit than be fired. Fucking Beard's girlfriend. She's like threatened by their relationship.
All Ted says is, tell Jane I said hello. And Beard's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to. She's still threatened by our relationship.
Sir, you have got to. Ugh, whatever. Sure. And yeah, it's just a good conversation because, you know, I had said last episode that I feel like Roy needs to open up to some men and have some male friends. And this conversation is part of that. I felt like we're making a little bit of progress here. And it would be nice if this were more of a thing for him because,
you know, as much as we were all devastated by the breakup of Roy and Keely, the fact that he chose to initiate the breakup because he was insecure really says a lot about his ability to be in a healthy relationship right now. You know what I mean? And I shipped them hard, guys. I didn't want them to break up. If they were still a couple for this season, I'd be so here for it. You know? But but since that's not what the show is doing, it's forcing me to think about some things that, quite frankly, I was happy not thinking about because I just really love them together. And I think that they could have worked through his stuff together as a couple. They didn't need to break up for him to do this. But
we're about to lose Crowdcast, so we'll see you. But we're still on the Zencaster, so people are going to get some bonus content.
Oh, they have been going for so long to the last couple times.
Well, this is one of the old. Remember, I told you that it's like
that's right.
Ones that are made on the new,
right.
So, but yeah, I agree with you. I also ship them, but if he's gonna have this kind of attitude, then it's better for her to not be with him.
Yeah, and it was it was weird as a viewer. It was almost like a salty pill to take, right? Like I was like, oh, show, okay, I guess you're right. I chose not to look at those flags.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking to the finale of the last season about the fact that he bought those tickets and expected her at the start of a new job to like bounce with him for 6 weeks. It was insane. It was a completely unrealistic thing, and it felt like him trying to sabotage her. And this is the next step in that.
Yeah,
he is sabotaging the relationship since he can't sabotage her career.
Yep, I think you're right, and you know, and again, it's not because he's like a terrible person and he's an asshole and fuck him. It's not like that kind of energy at all. It's just like, oh, there's some things that, you know, he probably needs to figure out and work on. I mean, he's carrying around a critique from when he was 16 in his wallet.
Exactly. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I was thinking that, like, he says to Trent when he pulls it out, this wrecked me. And I'm like, it wrecked you and you held onto it in a thing that you carry with you every single day. Like, sir, that is insane behavior.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to be like, I'm going to keep all of my rejection letters once I get published. I'll have shown you all. But you do that as like a humor. You don't keep it with you.
Yeah, I mean,
you hang it on your wall as a little gag, you know? It's like this is not to show somebody that you got by despite it. This is you just being really hurt and holding it
and hanging
cherishing
on to that hurt, right? right?
Yeah.
And then you know, like, this is going to be like so corny, but like it bears fucking repeating, you know, like he has like all that sadness that's like not expressed comes out as rage and anger.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like, what do people think that is? Where do they think all that rage comes from? Like, of course, he's still deeply wounded and has got all kinds of unresolved shit going on, right?
Yeah.
But
yep.
what would you
so
like?
pent up. I really want to know what his family is like.
What would you like to see for Roy? We talked about like what you would like, whether Rebecca goes to a psychic or not, and what you'd like to see with that. What would you like to see for Roy? What's like end game?
Honestly, just being able to like talk to people, being vulnerable and having some real friends that he can like go to. That's my main thing, is like he's pent up and locked down in a way that he really thinks like he has it under control by doing this. And he doesn't have anything like control. It's a complete illusion. And anybody who can like interact with him for 5 minutes will see how on the edge he is of fucking losing it at every second of the day. So what I want is for him to recognize that he doesn't have it under control, and that being vulnerable with people, yeah, you may get hurt sometimes, but that's like the trade-off that you make. You have to be willing to be hurt in order to not hurt yourself.
That's it right there. That's the part right there. All right, well, I think that's pretty good aspirational for Roy. Well, we will keep some thoughts and prayers and see how that works out for him.
That felt so mean-spirited. Thoughts and prayers, Roy.
Have you seen?
Yeah, get some friends, likely.
Have you seen where instead of saying like thoughts and prayers, people are saying sorrows and prayers? Have you seen that yet?
No.
Sorrows, prayers. And I think I've only seen like Black people saying it. So I'm wondering if it's like a take on something that's like church related that I just don't get because my ass don't go to church anymore. But
I don't even know what that means. Why sorrows?
I don't know, but I saw it all up and down the timeline, you know, about the memes, you know, because they were like fake. They weren't really being sorry, but like, you know, like, oh, submarine exploded, sorrows, prayers. And I saw it over and over again.
I don't even get it. Yeah, no, not my community.
Yeah, apparently not mine either.
Hey, what's that sneeze emoji mean? We're out of it, girl. We are done.
My God, you don't know how true that is. Or maybe you do. All right. Lord. Well, I think that does wrap the episode. Yeah. We got a little turned around there a couple times, but you know, we made it to the end.
Yeah, it was a bit messy. Sorry about that, everybody. I aspire to be more on top of, and like we ran over. So I had said last time that I would say hi to new patrons, and I'm going to do that, but we're even over than we were last time. I'm sorry. So we've got our new patrons this week, and they are Danielle and Galen Moore.
Hello.
Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for becoming a patron. And of course, like I said in the beginning, guys, you can be free trial patrons if you want to give it a shot and see how you like it. And I would really enjoy seeing some faces, and keep your eyes peeled for the new no pledge patron tier. I don't know what I'm going to call that, because I have names on all of my tiers now. If you go to Patreon, I have
voyeur.
Do
you still have a voyeur tier? Did I steal that from somebody else?
That's been a tier. That is
that's a spoil me
choice.
Yeah, that would have worked perfect, because these are people who were just watching but can't do anything else.
Before I had like the $1 tier, which was just called Spoiled. Then I had $3, and that was Big Fans way back. Now I've got $5 tier, Spoiled Brats, $10 tier, Spoiled Rotten, and $20 tier, Super Spoiled, and then $70 Spoiled Sponsor, because those are people who get my like ad read before the episode. Maybe I'll just call the free tier Brats. Just plain Brats. There's no spoiled in it because you're not a patron, so you can't be spoiled. You're a brat. I feel like that works, right?
Sure.
Anyway, we'll workshop it. All right. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, ma'am. I'm really excited about this season. Can't wait.
Me too. All right, kids. We will see you on the flippity flip.
Oh, man.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
We're out of it. I warned you. I said it.
No, my hands won't be tied down, and I will not lay them down, 'cause I can finally see the truth. So simple but so clear, accepting an ocean's depths were out of reach for me and you. If you're coming up for air, breathing in, you know I'll be there when you first begin. And when everybody's telling us we have no time, we'll prove them wrong.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.